Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Mr. Finley again. I just wanted to say hey and hope everyone is doing well. We are going to be looking at simple machines. I thought since that I am a firefighter that I would show you simple machines that we use at the fire department. So the first thing that we're going to talk about are incline planes. Incline planes are usually ramps that people go up. It helps move a large, heavy object up from one elevation to a second elevation. In the firefighting industry, we use small ladders and larger ladders. These are called A-frame ladders. But we also use different types of ladders that stand alone. We use attic ladders, which are foldable ladders that help us get into tight situations. We use roof ladders, which allow us to get on top of roofs. And we use extension ladders. These ladders are what we use when we need to get to higher places. We also have a ladder truck. It's not here today, but it is a fire apparatus that has a ladder that is attached. The one we have at Marion Fire Department is 102 foot. So these are just some simple examples of incline planes. The next simple machine we're going to talk about are wedges. Now wedges are very simple, as in the name, but they are actually an incline plane that moves. So this is a wedge that we use to prop doors open, and you basically slide it into place. Here's another example of a wedge that we would use to stop a sprinkler head from spraying water. Other simple tools that we use, if you look at an axe is a wedge. It's narrow and it widens up. This is used to spread things apart. A tool that we have, this is a multi-purpose tool. It's called a Halligan tool. It has on it a wedge on this end, and on this end we have forks that act as two separate wedges as well. We also use wedges when we chock the tires of the fire truck to keep it from rolling. You have lots of different wedges at your house, and I hope that you can locate lots and lots of them. So the next simple machine we're going to talk about are screws. Now most people think of a screw as an item that you take and drill into wood or metal, but screws are actually an inclined plane that has been wrapped around a cylinder. Now, if you look at this, you see these grooves. That would be the inclined plane that is wrapped around a cylinder. This is called an adapter. Of course, it has a screw mechanism. You can take it apart. As you see, I'm turning it, and then I can put it back together, turning it as well. Other things that have the use of a screw is on our air bottles. As you can see right here, we have the fitting where the air line goes in, that goes to our mask where we can breathe. We have hoses that have, this is called the male end of the hose, and it has the inclined plane around a cylinder, and that attaches to another device that we have called a nozzle. Now the nozzle has inside grooves, and these two fit together like this, and you spin it. Now the nozzle also has an interior screw mechanism that allows the end of the nozzle to turn. This allows us to change the pattern of how the water comes out from a very straight, narrow stream to a very wide, fan-like stream. The next simple machine that we're going to talk about is a lever. Now, a lever is a device that is a rigid bar that uses a fulcrum or a pivot point to pry something apart. Now, we have this right here. This is called a pry bar. It's used to pry open anything from doors on vehicles to the hoods to any other use that we need for it. We go back to a device that you've already seen called the Halligan bar. This is another type of lever. We use the whole thing. We put the wedge section in and use it to pry open, or we may use the fork end to pry a door open as well. Another device that we've looked at before is the nozzle. On the nozzle, we have a lever that opens and closes to let the water flow through or to stop the water. We also have what's called a spanner wrench. This is to tighten and loosen connectors on the hoses and nozzles. And finally, we have bolt cutters. Now, a bolt cutter is two levers that are used together. This is the fulcrum or the pivot point, and it's used to cut open metal chains or locks. So continuing with levers, we have what's called the pump panel. Now, the pump panel is how we control the flow of water from the tank that's on the truck to the hoses or the different uses that we may have for the water. Now, these are the levers that we pull. When we pull them, it makes a lever that's underneath here, and I'll show you in just a second. It makes them move as well. So, if you'll just follow me. All right. Inside, we have different levers. And when you pull them, it makes the water flow from the tank to another spot. So the next simple machine that we're going to talk about is the wheel and axle. It is basically a rod that goes through a round device. Now, most of the time when you think of wheels and axles, this is what you think about. This is a wheel that has an axle that runs through to the other side to another wheel. That's what we mainly think about. But we also have other variations of the wheel and axle. If we look at the end of a chainsaw, inside the bar you have a wheel that has an axle that goes through it where the chain goes around and the wheel inside spins. Also, we use a device. This is a hose roller, and it is made up of two levers that has a fulcrum that we've already talked about, but it also has an axle inside that goes along a very wide wheel. We use this to get the air and water out of the hoses before we pack it. So the last simple machine that we are looking at is called a pulley system. A pulley is a wheel that has a groove in it that allows a rope or belt to move a heavy machine, or in this case, it moves a heavy door. If you look in the background, you see the motor for a garage door opener. It actually has two pulleys, and those two pulleys allow it to move this large door. So this concludes our look at the 6 simple machines. The 6 simple machines being an inclined plane, a wedge, a screw, a lever, wheel and axle, and finally the pulley. I hope this helps you in your understanding what's the simple machines are.